So firstly, we'd like to say a big thank you for joining Margaret today, and we're going to first go through it. So the first thing we like to do when we start is to establish our ground rules. As I can see, I thank you all for joining. Thank you to Mohammed and Sheku for introducing yourselves in the chat. One thing we like to do here is establish our ground rules. So the first thing is I'm grateful to everyone for muting your microphones, and I'll also like that all communication should be done with respect. And please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat box. Today's agenda is as follows. First, we will have the introduction of Margaret and what we are about, and then we'll proceed to knowing about Africa. So we'd like to test our skills to see how best we know Africa. Then we'll have our first speaker to speak, and we can have questions afterwards as the speaker pleases, or would follow that up by having an icebreaker before we go ahead to have our second speaker. After that, we'll have a questions and answer session. Then finally, our closing remarks, and if there's any other thing our audience would like to add. So first, I would like to introduce Margaret. Margaret is an organization that is poised at empowering Africans with knowledge required to transition into clean energy and combat climate change. This was born out of the need for us to talk about and learn about each other's countries because Africa, they said, united we stand, divided we fall. And Africa has so much to learn from each other, especially as we are moving as a continent into the energy transition stage and also combating climate change. The vision of Margaret is to not just sensitize and educate everyone, but for us to build a community of like-minded people and organizations that are willing and ready to combat climate change. On this, our series called the African Energy Webinar Series is targeted at sharing the knowledge, especially since we have a knowledge gap amongst African youth regarding climate change actions and also net zero targets of our different countries. Previously, we've had countries like Senegal, Burkina Faso, Nigeria, and a few others who have shared resources on what their countries are currently doing. And we see similar things happening in other countries. And we're really grateful for establishing this knowledge because it also helps in interactions with people. I'll use myself as an example. As I go about my daily life, I was opportune to meet with people from these countries, and at least I've learned one or two new things that I can get to say and interact with people that makes me shine brighter and stand out. In Margaret, we are made up of three wonderful ladies. One who is Meridora Kamara, who is our programs coordinator. We also have Aisha Suleiman Abba, who is our communications and partnership coordinator. And you have me, myself, Georgette Udo, who is the technical coordinator of Margaret. Without further ado, I'd like us to proceed to having the How Best Do You Know Africa. You can easily scan the barcode that's on the screen, and I'll post a link to the Mentimeter in the chat box. You can easily click on this link and we'll get to the session where we get to know how best we know Africa. So I'm hoping we can see my screen. And if you're just joining, welcome and thank you for joining. Please feel free to click on the link in the chat to take you to the Mentimeter. We're about to test our knowledge on how best we know Africa. So feel free to join in and let's get to see each other's knowledge. So the first question is, which of these countries do not share a border with Liberia? Is it Ivory Coast? Is it Mali? Is it Sierra Leone or is it Guinea? So which of these countries do not share a border with Liberia? I'll just wait for a few seconds before we say the answer is. And please don't take it as you're wrong or right. We're just trying to learn from each other and understand how best we know Africa. So one of the secrets here is just to check how best you know Africa. Africa is made up of 56 countries or 54 countries, if you know if I'm correct or wrong. Let's see. But you can correct in the chat and we see if some people know that. But in the meantime, which of these countries do not share a border with Liberia? So the answer is Mali. Mali is the only country that does not share a border with Liberia. Liberia shares borders with Ivory Coast, Sierra Leone, Guinea, and the Atlantic Ocean. So the next question is, Which is the longest river in Liberia? It's named after a fish. So which of these rivers is the one? So just it side by is just it is named after a fish. So is it the Kavala River? Is it the Croker River? Or is it the Tilapia River? I see we have a tie. So let's see if anybody will break the tie. Is it the Kavala River? Is it the Croker River? Or is it the Tilapia River? The river is named after a fish. So maybe there's a Kavala fish, there's a Croker fish, is it a Tilapia fish? Okay, to break the tie, the correct answer is the Kavala River. It's the longest river in Liberia. So the third question is, what is the capital of Liberia? Is it Greenville? Is it Monrovia? Is it Harper? Or is it Gola? If you're just joining in, please feel free to check the chat. There is a link to take you to the Mentimeter where we're checking our skills on how best we know Africa. So what is the capital of Liberia? Is it Greenville, Monrovia, or Harper, or even Gola? Okay, I think we all got this correct. The answer is Monrovia. So the next question is, what is the capital of Mali? Is it Bamako? Is it Timbuktu? Is it Gao? Or is Mopti? Okay, so I guess we're getting this right. So the correct, you can either join using the link or you can use the code on the screen to join the Mentimeter to test your knowledge on how best you know Africa. So the correct answer to this question is Bamako. So the next question is, what is the dietary staple in Mali? Is it rice? Is it cassava? Is it millet? Okay. Is there any other person that cares to give their answers before we proceed? Okay, yes, the rice is unfortunately not the correct answer. The correct answer here is millet. So we'll move to our final question for how best to know Africa. Which of this country is the world largest mud brick building? Which of these countries has the world largest mud brick building? Is it Niger? Is it Liberia? Is it Mali? Is it Burkina Faso? Okay, and this brings us to the end of the session. The correct answer is Mali. It's housing the Eugenie Mosque, so it's one of the biggest mosques in the world that is made with mud. So thank you to everyone that was able to participate in the How Best You Know Africa, and congratulations to all those that had the answers correct. And I hope you're able to learn a thing or two about Africa, especially Liberia and Mali. So I'll go ahead to present our first speaker, before we proceed to hearing more about the second speaker. So please let me know if you can see my screen. Hi, good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining. Please, can everyone see my screen? Okay, thank you very much. So to present our first speaker, his name is Master Saliha Keita. His journey reflects a deep commitment to sustainability. He has a bachelor's in sustainable agriculture and proceeded to do a master's degree in climate change and renewable energy. He now serves as a project manager at Africa Green Hydrogen Partners. He actively engages in youth organizations and international coalitions, driving efforts for a greener future. At this point, I would like to welcome Mr. Saliha Keita to go ahead and speak to us and educate us about Mali, our net zero goals, etc. Thank you so much, Mr. Keita, and we're happy to have you on the call.
Thank you so much, Georgette. Good afternoon, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. Just feel
All
free
right.
to share your screen.
Okay. All right. Thank you. I'm not visible. Can you allow me to share my screen?
Okay, let me do that now.
Okay.
All right, please go ahead.
All right. All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen. You can now put in presentation mode, please.
Okay.
Yes,
Thank
you
thank
very
you
much.
so much. Before starting my presentation, I would like to thank my green for the invitation. I'm really honored to participate to Africa Energy Series with you guys, and hopefully we will get more insight about Mali energy situation. So before starting, my name is Salih Haketa. For those who doesn't know me, I'm a project hydrogen partners, the company involved in green hydrogen project in Mali. This is the first one. We want to collaborate with partners to implement a green hydrogen project. I don't want to be long. Want to start my presentation. All right. The outline of our presentation is structured like this. After a brief overview of Mali, we will talk about Mali's NDC, and which is National Determined Contribution. And then after that, we will show you energy potential and end of our presentation with renewable energy projects. So this is the overview of Mali. Mali is a landlocked country surrounded by seven countries, as you can see here: Mauritania, Algeria, Senegal, Guinea, Cote d'Ivoire, Burkina Faso, and Niger. The population of Mali is around 20 million of people, and 30% in rural and 50% in rural area. Population rate 57.4%, and area is account 24%. The key sector of economic sector in Mali is agriculture. It employ more than 80% of our population and contribute around 35% of our GDP. So now let's talk about Somali national contribution. It is a commitment made by the country to reduce its greenhouse gas emission and adapt to the impact of climate change. As you can see, the first NDC has been submitted in 2015, and the content is the key content of document is about the emission. My country want to reduce about 15% of the energy sector, 70%, sorry, for the energy sector, 50% for the agriculture, and 10% for land use. Our first NDC, and the update one, the government try to get some data like added uh, batch. So in regarding the emission reduction target by 2030, our country want to reduce our from the energy sector around 25 land use and forestry, and 31% for waste sector. Waste sector cover for in this NDC is the energy sector, agriculture, forestry, land use, and waste. So the key point of the NDC is about adaptation and resilience, plans for adaptation and resilience in energy agriculture sector, forestry, energy, waste, and waste management were also outlined. So the integration of with sustainability and the update documents highlights the to integrate gender equality, gender equality in the process, and also monitoring and reporting. The total estimated cost of implementing the NDC is about 20, sorry, 12.34 billion of US dollar, and 4.34 billion allocated for mitigation action, and sorry, and 8 billion of US dollar for the adaptation. Oh, sorry, I have a technical issues here. All right. So target for renewable energy in Mali. Mali aims to increase the share of renewable energy in its energy mix. As you can see, we want to increase the potential. The country targets 70 by 2025, 80% by 2020 or 2030, and 90% by 2036. Okay. Sorry, I have a bit of a network issue here. So this is the potential of my country, as you can see in the my country's solar radiation potential is estimated at around several 7 kilowatt hours per meter square day per day, and you can see that with sunlight for around 10 hours per day. So for the hydroelectric power is also a significant source, and with of 1,150 megawatts primarily the river Niger and Senegal. For the wind potential, which is estimated to around 3 to 7 meter per second, and a bit showing the potential of Mali regarding the renewables to our national energy mix. So as you can see here, the Mali is the national energy mix in 2021. You can see is dominated by the thermal power. So followed by the hydraulic power, hydropower, and then we also import electricity for our neighbors country, and PV power is only 3%. And the structure dedicated for the energy management in our country has published a paper and at this year, and this is showing us the amount of energy used in 2024. We can see that 70% of our energy is coming from thermal energy. 20% is imported from Cote d'Ivoire, which is our neighbor country, and 5% from the hydro, which is here in Mali also, and 2% from only 2% from hydro, and 3% from solar. So we have two kind of international connection from OMVR is the collaboration with Mauritania, Senegal, in Mali. They implemented some projects here in Manantali Hydroelectric Station, Felu, and Gonia to Senegal, Gonia. These plants transfer energy from hydraulic dam to Senegal and Mauritania. We import electricity from Cote d'Ivoire, as you can see, from CEI, which is a structure in charge of the electricity management in Cote d'Ivoire. Is not only the only one, but we import electricity. We collaborate with them in order to get electricity. The percentage of energy transported was 16% in 2021. But today, this year, we have 20% of importation. In addition to that, our country is involved, really committed to increase the the interconnection by planning with Mauritania, Burkina Faso, and Guinea. These projects are ongoing. Our energy consumption is really dominated by biomass because 77% of our total energy consumption is from biomass, and we still use the traditional cooking system because in my country, less than 1% of our population has not has access to clean cooking. Uh, Sorry, with for the network issues and all right. This is some renewable project in Mali, which, as you can see in the table, this is the recent one, hydroelectric station of Gonia, which has the capacity of 140 megawatts. It has been launched in 2022, and as you can see, all projects are working here in Mali, but we have some technical issues that really make us in trouble today because it's a bit too hot in Mali actually. So this is the renewable. This is our first larger solar power plant implemented at Kita, which is not far from Mali or from Bamako, the capital. As you can see here, the capacity of this solar power plant is 50 per megawatts, and it has been launched in 2020. So these are the different projects ongoing, and the Mali want to really involve, integrate the energy in our national mix because we have the huge potential of solar and wind and hydropower. Though, so the energy sector actor are the National Public Energy Services, the Energy of Mali, which is EDMSA, which is in charge of distribution, transportation, everything related to electricity here is the only one. Even if you want to collaborate with a structure, we have to go to them through their process to collaborate. There is also the government after some analysis, they found that it's really necessary to put on the ground some structure that can help our country to get a sustainable energy and to get more access in the renewable energy. So that's why they put on the ground Amader, which is in charge of rural electrification, the IR, which is the agents of renewable energy in Mali, a Anadep, which is in charge. Sorry, this is the French spelling, but is is normal sometimes. And the Anadep is in charge of promoting biogas, biofuel, everything related to bio. So there is also the independent country. This is a bit the structure. Sorry. Okay. Sorry, I have a bit technical issues here. Don't know what's happened. So this is a bit of the structure of Mali energy sector. As you can see, they involve the top one. This is the Premier Minister, which is in charge. Is the head of which is in charge of all everything related to this energy management. We have also commission, which is the one in charge of implementing the policy and regulation regarding all the energy sector. They are the one also implemented recently a paper that can allow the private sector to input their energy to connect in the network in order to help our country to increase our electricity access. There is Amader, as I told you, is in charge of rural electrification. ADM is the main company in charge of electricity management in our country. So before I try to give more information from my presentation, but due to the larger of the huge amount of information, I was asking myself for which kind of information I can put on the ground in order to help you to understand the energy situation in our country. This is the some information that I gather and I want to share with you. And I'm available for the question and contribution for the best of this initiative. And also thanks you again to Magrin for giving me the floor to share with you my the energy situation in Mali. And thank you so much. Thank
Thank
you.
you so
This is
much.
the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Oh, thank you so much, Keita. It was a really insightful presentation, and I've learned so much about Mali from this presentation because before now I just thought, okay, Niger River passes through, but I didn't know we have dams in Mali. So it was really an entertaining and exciting, insightful presentation for me. Please feel free to leave your questions in the chat so we can also ask other questions. But from my end, I think I can open the floor with questions. The first question I would have would be, is Mali currently facing any adverse conditions that have to do with climate change, such as droughts or floods currently in Mali?
Okay. Can I answer directly or I should wait?
No, go ahead, answer directly.
Okay. So regarding location, I think our country this year we are not facing this kind of issues here concern here in Mali. With the climate change, we cannot forecast this kind of events. Sometimes it can happen, but this year we didn't face yet this kind of problem. But it's happened. It's happened sometime. Last year we faced flooding issue in our country, but this year we thank God. From now, there is no kind of concern like this.
Thank you so much for that answer. And my second question would be about where you work, since you work in the hydrogen sector. So I would like to ask if Mali has any plans to also take up and follow up with hydrogen, because I see some African countries currently do that.
Yeah, there is many initiative regarding that. Our country is, as I told you, we have, let's say, blessed by our renewable energy potential. So, first of all, there is a company called Hydroma, which is really involved to develop a natural hydrogen, which is white hydrogen in Mali. So regarding my company, we are involved in green hydrogen production and promotion, and we start to collaborating with some partner here in Mali. As I told you, the agents of renewable energy, we meet up and we are working on that to make this energy more available in our country and try to collaborate also with ICRI in order to adopt, to accept, to implement their strategy regarding green hydrogen in West Africa. Mali is really committed to go for the renewable energy because we know that the current situation in our country in the world. It is really stressful because we are facing many issues, and Mali is my country is really committed to bring their contribution for the fight for the climate change fighting. Thank you.
Thank you so much. That's really insightful, and I'm really happy to hear that. I think in Africa, Mali is like the first country that has white hydrogen, and it's really something very significant. Thank you so much for your presentation. It was really insightful. Thank you so much, Mr. Keita. And please, if you
Thank
have
you.
any other questions, feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat. But okay. Please go ahead, Hughes. You can unmute yourself and speak, please.
Thank you very much for the opportunity, and I would like to congratulate the presenter for this excellent and brilliant presentation. But I have one question regarding the rate of electricity from hydrogen, as we are talking
Sorry,
about.
I'm not.
Can you hear me?
The network issue.
Hello?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry, I have a network issue.
Yeah, what is the rate of electricity
Hello?
generated from hydrogen, white hydrogen? How much electricity has been produced or generated from white hydrogen in the context of renewable energy integration in Mali?
Can you repeat your question? Sorry, I have a network issue and
Maybe Georgette, I don't know if you.
Hello, can you hear me?
The question. You can.
Yes, I heard the question. Hi,
Yeah.
Keita, can you hear me?
Can you repeat your question, please?
Okay, Mr. Hughes was asking if currently in Mali they are generating electricity from hydrogen.
Okay, yeah, I get now. All right, regarding that question, there is in step called prototype. They are using let's say the small amount that they found to electrify Burankebugu, only Burankebugu. This is they are working on that to see how they can make this project in large scale. For now, they are just electrifying Burankebugu, and they are working on that. I'm in contact with them, and I always involve our enterprise for whether green hydrogen or white hydrogen, as we God bless us with this uh, uh, energy sources.
Thank you so much, Mr. Keita, and thank you so much, Hugh, for such an insightful question. And please feel free to take the conversations out of here and also in the chat box. We would like to learn more from each other. Thank you so much again to our presenter, Mr. Keita. So now I will proceed to introducing our second speaker.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much. So please, I don't know if you can see my screen. I would like to present Mr. Preston Yanama. Mr. Preston Yanama is the Deputy Director of Research and Innovation in the Center for Renewable Energy and Climate Actions in Liberia. He is a science enthusiast with interdisciplinary backgrounds that encompass the domains of applied chemistry, physics, climate change, and energy. He has a strong passion for research and science innovations and their roles in transforming our communities. Please welcome Mr. Preston Yanama.
Thank you very much, Georgette. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you clearly. So feel free to share your screen.
Okay, thank you very much. Let me share the screen. Here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see your screen, but it's not the presentation that is showing. It's just your desktop.
Oh, wow.
Mr. Person, can you hear us? Your mic is on mute in case you're still trying to share. But if you're having any difficulties, please feel free to share with me, then I can present it while you speak.
Yes, just a minute.
Okay, so my eardrums. While we wait for Mr. Preston to share his screen, please, if you have any other questions or things you would like to share, please feel free to drop it in the chat, or you can raise your hand and we can continue the conversation while we wait on him. Okay, I think everybody really understood the previous presenters' PowerPoint, so no one has any questions, or maybe anybody has anything they would like to share. I think a fun fact for me today would be learning more about Liberia. Yes, Preston, we can see your screen now. You can put it in presentation mode, then you can go ahead from there. I think your two microphones are on at the same time.
Yes. Okay.
Okay.
So are you seeing my screen now?
Yes, just switch it to presentation mode and we're good.
It's not yet in presentation mode.
No, not yet.
From my end, it's in presentation mode.
Oh, okay, no problem. Let's go ahead.
Is it in presentation mode?
No, it's not yet, but we can proceed if you're unable to.
Write down the PowerPoint. There is a place called Slideshow. I've clicked on it.
Oh. Well, okay. Does any other person see it in presentation mode? Okay, yes, now it's in presentation mode.
Okay, I'm seriously sorry.
No worries.
Okay, so thank you very much. It's an opportunity given to me by Migraine to present about the energy sector of Liberia and that of the net zero goals. Before starting, I would just like to take a bit of a view. My neighbors are having some renovation. I have no control over it, so please, just in case there is a bit of noise in the background. So today I will present to you Liberia's energy sector and net zero goals. I am the Deputy Director for Research and Innovation at CRICAS, Liberia, and I'm also a President Young Professional in Liberia. I hold a master's degree in energy and green hydrogen technology, photovoltaics. Obviously, Georgette is my classmate, and a lot of the attendees today. I also have a Bachelor of Science in Chemistry and Mathematics. So within the next 10 minutes, 10 to 15 minutes, we will look at highlights of Liberia's energy sector, climate change challenges, and then the net zero goals, including mitigations and adaptation policies and strategies. So not a lot of people know about Liberia, so I decided to give you some information, some overview about Liberia. So on the left is the map of Liberia, and then Liberia is divided into 15 subdivisions that we call counties. The land area is about 111,369 square kilometers. Beyond that, Liberia is the first African republic to gain independence. And then we have about 5.4 million people as of 2023. So interestingly, Liberia is the most forested country in West Africa. About 68% of our land area is covered by forest. And also 43% of the Upper Guinea forest belong to Liberia. Our major natural resources include diamond, iron ore, gold, and wildlife. Also, we are one of the wettest countries in the world. We have a lot of rain. Between 1991 and 2020, the average precipitation amounted to 2,466 millimeters. That is about 3 times the amount in the US and France. So we now look at the energy mix of Liberia. So basically, our energy mix includes biomass, petroleum, hydropower, and solar power. So from the graph, we see that the basic primary energy consumption in Liberia comes from biomass, particularly wood and charcoal. You can see the image in the background, like most other West African countries, followed by petroleum, which accounts for 10%, and then hydropower, which accounts for 6%, and then other sources dominated by solar, which accounts for 4% of the energy mix. So when it comes to energy, electricity generation in Liberia, our total installed capacity is 126 megawatt. For comparison, the total installed capacity of Ivory Coast is around 2,269 megawatt. That is about 18 times the electricity generating capacity of Liberia. So we can conclude that we are in a serious problem when it comes to energy in Liberia. So when it comes to energy generation, we have two main sources. We have our hydropower, which is called the Mount Coffee hydropower plant, and it has the capacity of 88 megawatt. And we also have a thermal power generator, which is located in a region called Bourgeois Island, a community called Bourgeois Island. And it has the capacity of 38 megawatt. That amounts to 126 megawatt. But also we have additional electricity coming from the Ivory Coast. About 27 megawatt is being imported from Ivory Coast. So this is the total generating capacity of Liberia. Okay. So like I said, energy access in Liberia is a national challenge. It's a big problem. As I speak to you, there is no electricity, in fact. And then out of our total population in 2020, only about 28% of the population have access to modern electricity. We have one of the highest electricity tariff in West Africa at $0.35 per kilowatt. And just to compare, in Ivory Coast is around $0.119 per kilowatt. That's a very huge margin. So as we look on the graph, we see that the access to clean cooking in Liberia has almost been close to zero since 2014. We see that the curve is completely linear. There has been no increase. And then access to electricity as of 2020 was 28%. And access to renewable energy accounts for 87%. But remember that the renewable energy includes biomass, and biomass is one of the highest primary energy consumption sources in Liberia. So There are major sectors in Liberia that contribute to CO2 emission. They include the energy sector, the agricultural sector, and the waste. So the energy sector accounts for about 5,414 gigagrams of CO2 emission per year, according to the Environmental Protection Agency report. The agricultural sector accounts for 2,562 gigagrams of CO2 emission into the atmosphere, and waste accounts for 46 gigagram of CO2 emission into the atmosphere. And according to a study done by Notre Dame Global Initiative, which gives the index of countries that are highly vulnerable to climate change effects, it puts Liberia at a high vulnerability. So among 182 countries, Liberia ranked 174 as it relates to vulnerability. And when it comes to our preparedness and readiness, we are ranked around 165. So that is, we are not really prepared to combat the effects of climate change. And there are different sectors that are at high vulnerability. Our total vulnerability is around 0.605. Just for context, the scale range from 1 to 10. So we are around 0.605, and then the health sector is around 0.755. Just for a bit of correction, the range is 0.1 to 0 to 0.1. And that of water is 0.339 and food. So we can see that a lot of our sectors are at high vulnerability when it comes to climate change impacts and effects. Okay, so still on the challenges of climate change in Liberia, flooding is common in the capital, Monrovia, because a lot of the sectors that depend on energy are being affected by humans: the agricultural sector, the fishery sector, the mining sector, the forestry sector. The country depends on these sectors to generate revenue. So in the end, there are destructions and then the effect of climate change. So flooding is very common. So for example, since 2013, about 6,500 people have been displaced by climate change. 800 houses have been destroyed, particularly in a community called West Point Slum, which is in Monrovia. Also, diesel generator accounts for about 48% of the total electricity generation in the country. So you can imagine the air pollution in Liberia. In the greater Monrovia area alone, sea level rise by 2030 will put a risk of about more than 500,000 people and 9,500 hectares of land at risk. Despite the climate change challenges, there are some positive mitigation and adaptation strategies that are being put into place. So, like I said initially, 68% of our forest of our land is covered by forest. That puts Liberia at a stream of being a very good carbon sink. So Liberia is a net carbon sink, emitting less greenhouse gas than it absorbs. So essentially, we are not contributing that much to climate change, but the impact of climate change is what we are feeling. So 96,811 kilotons of CO2 are absorbed by our forest every year. And then we are also a signatory to the Paris Agreement, and the government has committed to reduce greenhouse gas emission by about 64% by 2030. So Liberia Forest is protected by Liberia's Forestry Development Authority. Our forest is important for the entire West Africa because it is a huge carbon sink. The national policy and response strategies on climate change post the total amount that we need for climate change mitigation and adaptation at 1,939.2 million dollars. So that is the amount that Liberia needs to effectively employ mitigation and adaptation strategies as it relates to climate change. So there are some renewable energy projects that have been ongoing in the country. Some have been completed, some are still being implemented. So we have the regional off-grid electrification project, which was implemented by ECRI. And then it was implemented in 19 countries, including Liberia, funded by World Bank. So these are the various projects. For example, the Energizing Development Project, which was implemented by GIZ and implemented nationwide in various countries or in various regions of the country. So we have major actors as it relates to our energy sector. We have the Ministry of Mines and Energy. That is the ministry that craft policies as it relates to energy, the energy sector and the mining sector. So they are the top when it comes to the energy sector in Liberia. So for electricity distribution, we also have the Liberia Electricity Corporation. It is charged with the responsibility to distribute electricity in the entire country. As it relates to renewable energy, we have a special unit called Liberia Rural Renewable Energy Agency, and they are responsible for everything renewable energy in Liberia. So as it relates to renewable energy, there have been some positive policies that have been implemented according to our policies. So by 2030, we want to improve energy efficiency by 20%. And then renewable energy, we want to increase the amount by 30%, and so that it accounts for 10% of the overall energy consumption by 2030. In 2022, our president gave an executive order, which we call Executive Order number 107, and that suspends every tariff on renewable energy import in Liberia. That is, if you are in Liberia and you are engaged into renewable energy business, or you want to employ renewable energy in your energy mix, every product that you bring in the country, there will be no tax on such a product. So that's a great way forward as it relates to improving renewable energy in Liberia. So thank you very much for your attention. Once again, it's a great opportunity given to me by my green. I hope that you got something about the climate change and renewable energy sector of Liberia. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Preston. It was really an insightful presentation. I have gotten a different look at Liberia differently from this presentation. Thank you so much. One of the things that stood out to me was when you talked about 68% of the land mass in Liberia is covered by forest. And this is something that other countries are like praying for. So you're not emitting as much as you're absorbing, which is something really good. And you made mention of that. And you talked about things that we are all knowing about in West Africa, things like biomass that we all contribute to generally. Thank you so much for that. So please, if you have any questions, please feel free to raise your hand or put it in the chat box, then we can proceed. If no one has any questions, I think I can always start. I was always happy to start with the questions. So you made mention about the floods and the displacement in Liberia. So one of the questions I have to ask is going to be, so what are the structures that are in place to tackle these issues concerning floods, especially like mitigating factors? You mentioned a few things about mitigations, but are they like bodies in quotes that would help tackle this mitigation?
Yes, definitely. There are bodies being instituted by the government. Like we have the National Climate Change Response Team. So whenever there is a major issue like flooding in the country, they are charged with the responsibility to respond to that. But unfortunately, like most of other African countries, we usually tend to respond to the result of things than planning ahead of time. So it's a very big challenge. In Liberia, we like our drainage system is a huge problem in Monrovia, and not much effort has been made to make sure that the drainage system is very efficient. So almost every year there is flood in the country, but hopefully there will be plans and policies to to be put in place so that there is an efficient drainage system or an efficient system to curb the rate of deforestation, for example.
Oh, thank you so much for that. That's really good to know. But at least moving forward, there's always joy when we are hoping and seeing a brighter future. Does any other person have any questions? Okay, I didn't see anybody's hands raised. Okay, please go ahead, Mr. Jampajwa.
Thank you so much, Mark Green, for this opportunity and for this initiative. It's really appreciated from our side. Thank you, the presenter. You have done a great work, and it was a very interesting presentation. We are now informed about the energy sector and the situation in Liberia. So just a minor comment, I think on the slide number 7, your data about the current CO2 emissions in Liberia.
Mm-hmm.
Number 7, please. Yeah, so you mean energy is the highest emitter from the chart, and the data is in 2013. So I will advise or suggest to find updated data, more updated data, so we can be really more informed about the current situation, because it's now 11 years ago. And if I see the greatest emitter in the Liberian sectors, within the Liberian sectors, is the land use change and indoor forestry is the biggest emitter in Liberia. And you presented that Liberia has about 68% of forests.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, the forest covers 68% of the country's land area. So I can understand by analyzing the data, like about emissions from land use change and forestry, and the percentage of forest cover of the land mass in Liberia, that there is maybe high rates of deforestation going on, and
Mm-hmm.
also some agricultural activities and maybe bushfires that can also contribute to this higher or this amount of CO2 emissions from the land use change and forestry. So it will be interesting to have all this information so we can better analyze the situation. And from your side, I would like to know, so what do you think about this very low energy production in Liberia? I mean, electricity production. You could, from your presentation, we noticed that is only about 126 megawatts produced, while the country has a lot of water resources. And also, I can assume from the data, you also have a lot of biomass residues. So what do you think, and what kind of policies do you think should be necessary to implement to get Liberia maybe increase or improve the energy access in Liberia based on biomass energy or maybe hydroelectric energy? Thanks you.
Okay, so thank you very much, Jamgadora. As it relates to the first question about the data as of 2013, I agree. And the reason is because, of course, as a like many other in Africa, research is a big problem. So I have searched for recent data as it relates to the emission. So the only one the closest I was able to get was around 2013. So that's the reason I take note of your recommendation.
All right.
And
So just as we are all sharing knowledge and learning from each other, you can put down this. You can check the data on Climate Watch.
yeah, okay, all
Yes,
right.
Climate Watch. You can have the data there, also our World in Data. You can get the data from
Okay,
2020, 2022.
okay, good.
Yeah.
So as it relates to the low rate of electricity generation in Liberia, from a lot of the researches that have been done, one of the reasons that has stand out is uh, corruption. For example, Liberia receive a lot of donor funds as it relates to improving the energy sector, but most of these funds are misdirected and some of the energy projects are not realized. So as it relates to what policies could be implemented, for example, we have 6 major rivers in Liberia that have huge potential for hydropower. So in my own opinion, it will be necessary if each region has a mini hydropower that could produce electricity for that region instead of depending on the one hydropower that we have that supplies the entire Morovia. They cannot reach to the rural setting. So if these rural areas that have a lot of different rivers can have their own mini hydropower, that will be able to power different regions of the country.
Thank you for your clarifications, and thanks for your analysis. Thanks.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So at this juncture, I'd like to say a very big thank you to our presenter, Mr. Preston Yanama, and thank you to Mr. David for asking your questions. We really appreciate all the feedback and everything. Thank you to everyone for taking our time to join. Special thanks to our presenter. You have really made us learn more about Liberia and the energy sector and the future, what the future holds, and like there's hope for tomorrow. And we are really grateful concerning this. And to everyone that joined, thank you so much for your time. We are really grateful. We can continue these conversations outside of this forum because I know we have just 1 hour in our weekends, and we're so grateful you decided to share this time with us. So we would ask that you feel free to follow us on all social media platforms: Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and X, formerly called Twitter, at Mark Green. We would always share more conversations. And same time next week, we have another webinar with 2 other new countries, and we would like to hear your thoughts. Please feel free to join. It's the same link. Thank you so much, everyone, for your time, and please have a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much.